he's done. We're going to take the roast out of the oven. Turn the alarm off. I'm going to set it up here. And I'm going to leave this probe in here for a few seconds or a few minutes because I want to show you something else. We're going to take this off of out of the pan, excuse me, and we're going to let it rest again on a rack. And I'm going to lightly tent it with a piece of aluminum foil. We've talked about resting before and what happens when we rest. If you've heard me say it once, you've heard me say it 100 times. When protein heats up, it starts to seize up, and then as you let it rest, it relaxes and the moisture comes back into the pan, or into the product, sorry. That temperature is going to continue to go up. The alarm started to go off at 145. We took it out of the oven when it was 148, and now it's at 151. That temperature is going to continue to go up while we do the rest of this. It will probably go up that piece maybe for the next 10 minutes or so. If it's a smaller piece, it maybe doesn't last that long. If it's a larger piece, like a prime rib, it could rest for about 30 minutes and the temperature can still keep going up. So it's something you have to take into account. We pulled or set the temperature to be at 145 so that we knew it would be finished and done cooking between 155 and 160. I'm going to drain this fat and juice from the pan that I used to roast. You've all heard of prime rib au jus. That means with juice. And if you thicken that juice a little bit, it's called jus, J-U-S, jus. We're not going to use the jus for this roast. I'm going to make that Creole sauce that I was talking about before. Oh, for some reason this thing just stopped. But it's at 153. Joyce, what do we? Battery. Okay, I don't care about the battery. Can you get this? It's at 153, and that's going to go for just a few more minutes. Now, what I have to make this sauce is andouille sausage. And I want to saute that a little bit here. You can see that we still have the fond like we did when we had when we did our saute. So we're going to make our sauce in here, just like we did then. Now, this, in Creole cooking, the peppers, the onions, and the celery are what are known as the Trinity. In French cooking, you use carrots, onions, and celery as mirepoix for when we make stocks and stuff. Down in Cajun land, they use what they call the Trinity. So I'm going to saute this for just a little bit. And I'm going to throw in the garlic and the onions and the peppers. And I'm going to saute this for a little bit. Tracy has told me that the battery is dying again. Of course it is, because why wouldn't it? We'll come back to this here in a little bit after we change the battery. Alright, so we're back after changing the battery. We've been sauteing our Trinity and our andouille sausage here for a little bit. You remember when we did our saute video, the stuff in the bottom of the pan was called the fond, and we used something acidic to get it up. We're going to use some tomatoes here for this Creole sauce. We're going to saute those around a little bit before we add our chicken gravy. I'm going to put a little bit of salt. And a little bit of pepper. And you know what? I'm going to get a little bit of blackening spice too. What do we have in here? Alright, make up a bunch of this ahead of time. And then whenever you need it, you just reach in and get it. This is salt, black pepper, white pepper, paprika, chili powder, oregano, celery seed, garlic, blah, 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 blah. Just a little bit of seasoning. Stir that in. The dog is coming back to help. He wants to play fetch. And then the chicken velouté is going to go in. And there, we have a little bit of Creole gravy to go with our roast pork. We'll check that temperature of the pork here in just a second. We're going to let this come up to a boil and then let it simmer for a little bit. Probably have another 5 minutes or so of letting the pork loin rest. So before we get to that, you know what comes next for the seasoning, right? A little bit of hot sauce. A little Worcestershire sauce. Get that stirred in. Make a quick taste. Needs to cook a little bit more and mellow out some. It's got pretty tomatoey flavor. We want that to sweeten up some. So we'll let that go another 5 minutes or so. Our temperature is still on the rise, but it's rising up much more slowly now. It's at 160. So we'll let it keep going for another 5 minutes, and we'll come back in 5 minutes. So see you in a bit. It's going to focus. Of course not. Anyway, well, there we go. There you go. All right, you see that it's at 161 degrees. It's been there for the last 2 or 3 minutes while we were away. Our pork loin has finished resting, I think. If you look down in here, you can see some of the juices that have dripped out in the pan. We are going to pull this temperature probe out of there. We're going to turn this off so it doesn't go nuts. Move it off to the side. And then we'll take our pork loin and I'm going to slice it into a couple of nice big thick pieces. Plate up together to go with our Creole sauce. This in here. Now, when you're slicing a roast, you want to use a long knife. And you want your motion to be long, not little short saws. So that way you end up with a smooth face of the product, as opposed to something that looks like there's a line and a line and a line and a line. Let me see if I can get that to happen here. And do a couple of quick things. And if you look real closely, and I don't know, I think you might be in the shadow. You can see these lines that are right here.
It's too light.
It's too light?
It's too bright. Put it over there.
Back here. There are some lines here that were caused by the knife.
Oh, wait, I just got it.
You did? You got it?
Where are you? Okay, got it.
All right. So we don't really want that. It doesn't hurt the product. It just looks bad. So we want to make long, smooth cuts to eliminate all of those little sawing motions that you saw. And in here, there's just 1, 2, where the knife went, as opposed to 3 or 4. So we'll cut this, and as you can see, very little juice is escaping out of the pork because we let it rest. And there we have it, our roast pork loin with a little bit of Creole sauce. And we use the oven. Dry heat cooking, larger, tender products. You surround the product by heat, ambient heat in the oven. It's either roasting or it's baking. It's the exact same thing. Have a good time with this. Roast chickens are always nice. And if you can get a hold of some, and if you like it, Prime rib is always nice. Have a great day. We'll see you.